speak to them with the association?
There are two listed on here that I think are very important to all of us. One is a House Bill, 0490R, requiring planning board and zoning board members of adjustment to be elected. That one, in the last session, it was part of a bill, and it's totally unnecessary in that the current RSAs allow communities to decide for themselves whether they want to have planning board and board of adjustment elected or appointed. And so having that right now, requiring them to do this, takes away a lot of local control and a lot of local rights. The other part of that is that cities, and there are 13 cities, there is no the requirement is that the councils appoint planning board and zoning board of adjustment people. And I happen to favor that because then citizens apply, they're interviewed, they're vetted, their qualifications are checked, and then they're assigned to 3-year terms, rotating 3-year terms on the Board of Adjustment. So the local legislative body, the elected body, does have the authority to determine the composition, the experience, the education, the capabilities. Where, and cities are many times, because of the plans, are complicated. And so it's necessary to have people on there. So I'm very supportive of the way it is now. Last time when this bill went before the House Committee on Municipal and Government Affairs or something like that, they voted it down 15-0 to ITL it, not to recommend it.
Which bill is that?
It's the one on the top page there where you had the Ham Branch watershed, down by the bottom, one up from the bottom.
0490, is that?
490.
Yeah, 0490.
Okay, but you said there was another one that
Yeah, there's another one that I
was
think.
the opposite of this?
Yeah, there's another one here that is another bill that's, in my opinion, extremely dangerous. And it was a Senate bill. It's on the other page, 0149. It's third up from the bottom, relative to the powers of the zoning board of adjustment. As you all know, the zoning boards of adjustment determine and issue variances and exceptions to the zoning laws. And the way it is now is that it takes 3 affirmative votes in order to pass anything, to allow anything. This bill would drop it to 2 affirmative votes. That's extremely dangerous. Because again, depending upon the competency of the individuals on there, or sicknesses, or snowbirds, or that, it could come down that valuable, well, all land is valuable, but it would be determined by 2 people.
Is that no matter what size the board?
Yes.
Good. So even if you had a 7-member board, 2 people could be in favor of it and it could pass.
Wow.
It's the majority of, right now, the bill, if I understand it correctly, there has to be 3 affirmative votes to pass anything. And depending upon who was there in terms of the quorum, it could be that there were 5 people there or 4 people there. You'd need 3 votes in order to pass something.
Yeah, I don't see that one on the list.
It's on the page that starts, on the top it starts about House Bill 176, and this one's all the way down on that.
Relative to powers.
Yeah, zoning board of adjustment.
Well, would this group want to express an opinion on these that I can carry to the association meeting tomorrow if it comes up? The kinds of things that are apt to come up is, you know, do we want to actively get involved in one of these or just watch it? That's what they did last year.
I think this one ties to our mission, the Planning Commission's mission of environmental and transportation. It can very well be that an applicant wants to do something on a piece of land that would affect things that we're committed and are responsible for. And so, I think when the power of government shifts, then we do need to be involved, and we want the citizen participation, and we want the checks and balances.
Right.
And this.
Okay, well, what I'm asking is, can I assume that on the bill proposing that Board of Adjustments be elected, that we oppose that?
I would like to.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm asking.
I'd like to make that as a motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Then motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none? Yes, sir.
Are you allowed to, as leader of the group, can you move? Or should the motion come from somebody else?
I'll move it then.
I'll second.
Thank you. In the local planning boards where I serve in Laconia, I give up no right as chairman. I vote and I can make motions and I can make full rights of membership, and I assume that that would be true here too. But we have solved that issue.
How many people are there usually on a zoning board?
It depends upon,
Is there a limit to how many people can be on, or kind?
yes, there is.
We should-
It's spelled out in the
Alright.
RSAs, and the alternates are spelled
So there's
out.
just so many people that can be on it, so
Yeah.
there's 3 and 2 would,
Either 5 or 7,
Right.
okay.
or 6, could be 6, but that would be kind
So,
of, get ties all the time.
oh, okay, so there's 3 and 2 would,
Yeah, it just drops when you think that your whole community can be affected by two votes.
people.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Minority
even
votes.
3,
Even three, yeah, but two
yeah,
is just too,
okay, yeah.
in my opinion,
Yeah.
it's too low.
Yeah,
Yes, Jean?
I would just love to see what it actually says, because I don't quite understand the mathematics of it. You're saying that 2 people can pass it, but if the board has 7 people,
right.
what are the other 5 doing?
They're in Florida, they're on vacation, they're sick.
They might not be there.
So
But say
five
say if you had 7 there, it wouldn't pass with just 2, you'd have to, say you had 7 in attendance, then the 2 wouldn't, or the 3, you know.
Yeah, but what our motion is to
Right.
ask our association to be opposed of lowering. I think lowering the number of votes on just about anything is a wrong thing.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I know our city planner has been down and testified before the Senate, and this bill originated in the Senate, and they have passed it. So it's going to the House. And the House, of course, is a much larger committee. I think there's like 15 people on that committee.
You know, it could be that they're thinking that if you have only a basic quorum there, three board members present, then a majority of that quorum could pass the application. Would that be the only situation where the 2 would carry it?
I'm not sure. But it did state, our city planner has been down and testified against this at before the Senate. And it's just it's adding risk to our whole governmental process that our opinion shouldn't be there. So a motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Therefore, the motion passes unanimously. Bob, you can communicate
Okay,
that
now,
the
what about the second one? What we just voted on was,
the ZBA thing.
no, what we voted on was that the zoning board of adjustment be elected. There's this other one on zoning, the one limiting the number of people that it takes to make a decision, I guess. Do you want to put that one to vote as well?
Yes, please.
I thought we just voted
I
on
thought
That's
we
what I
just
thought.
voted
I thought
on
we
that.
did too.
The motion was on the other one, requiring that planning board and zoning board of adjustment members be elected.
I don't think so.
No, I
No.
don't think so either.
It was the
I
other
think it
way.
was on the other one.
No, it was on powers of the zoning board of adjustment.
Oh, why don't we,
All
why
right,
don't we,
then
why don't we?
what about the other one?
Oh, the
Well,
other one?
I'll receive a motion on that.
Planning board and who's East, yeah?
I'll move that we oppose the proposal that zoning board and planning board members must be elected.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on this?
You say that again, they must be elected?
Yeah, that's what this
That's
law
The bill
what
says
want
they have to
requires.
be elected.
And it would take away from the municipalities, except for the cities. And we have 234 municipalities that right now decide for themselves whether they want to elect, whether they want to appoint. This would take away their rights to determine that, and it would require them to elect.
I see. So the towns in New Hampshire that do elect have chosen to do so, but they could choose not to if they wanted to right now.
That's correct.
And what you're saying is if this passed, then they would have to
Yes.
always be elected.
Yes.
Right. Yes, because I just wanted to say that we know from the past discussion that both Freedom and Tamworth, and I don't know how many others, do elect.
It's their right.
They're right.
It's
And
their
what
right
you're
to do.
saying is they have that right according to...
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any anti? It most passes unanimously, and you can express the opinion of the executive board, Bob, if you want. Any other bills on this list?
I have a question. I have a question on HB 244, which is on the first page, second one from the bottom, about the permissible level of MTBE in drinking water.
Yes?
Are we making it more stringent than the federal?
I believe so. But I don't have.
I mean, I don't think we can make it less stringent.
No.
It does point out again, this whole discussion about our role, in my opinion, needs to be far greater in looking at the bills and knowing when they're going to come before committees and communicating to our commissioners and our communities as to what's happening when, so that they can go down and be part of the process. So that because of the tremendous number of bills that are introduced every year, and so many of them are, we would find not good for New Hampshire, and we need to communicate better. And we haven't solved that problem yet. We have to figure it out how to do this. And it can be, maybe the association down there, they can figure out some way, because the bills affect the entire state, and I do know, last time, there's so many of the hearings are held in February. The bills are introduced, I believe, in January. The hearings are in February. It's so darn quick that you don't have a chance to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah, if you're interested in tracking these, the best way is to go on to the general court website and look up the bill, and it'll give the docket, which is a schedule of hearings, and where it sits in the committee and subcommittee status, and any updated wording of the bill, because the bills change as they proceed through the process, so it's difficult to stay up with what's going on. But if there's one you want to track, that's the best way to do it. They're usually no more than a day out of date schedule.
Yes, Jim?
Is this where you could read what they say? I mean, what the actual words are of the bill?
Yes.
Of the bill, yeah.
Yes.
On this same website?
Yeah, you can get the text and
Right. Thank you. Thanks.
Do you get the minutes of meetings?
you don't get the minutes of the meetings, no.
Mr. John?
I have a question for Bob on the Ham Branch. Easton has the really broad, flat valley in Easton. Is that where the Ham Brook is?
Yeah.
The little north-flowing stream, maybe? But it's a broad, flat valley.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
And in Compass, what's unique is this proposal, usually these designations have been for stretches of a river. And this is to designate a watershed as protected, so it's the first time.
It's a little watershed. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful little system.
It's a beautiful little system, and it would, if passed as proposed, it would put the whole watershed under, the town would have to develop standards for that watershed. But it would relieve them from the standards that exist in the Shoreline Protection Act. So it's kind of a counterintuitive proposal. They want control, but they don't want the state standards. And it's, most people offline will say it's being driven by Northern Pass.
Yes, John?
Another question. Any new status on the greenhouse gas initiative program on that?
I don't know what the status of that is.
I think that was on the radio this morning. Seeing how I had such a long ride down here.
You listen to a lot of
I
stuff.
listen to a lot of stuff, but I think that they are changing it, the wording of it. They're not withdrawing it or anything like that, but they're changing what they had proposed within this.
I think there's two bills.
I think it
One,
was.
I think there's two bills. One would eliminate our participation completely. The other one would eliminate where the money goes that's collected from utilities for, that normally went to green projects. And I didn't hear where it would go, probably into the general budget.
Mike, would you like?
Yeah, and in reviewing what this agenda item, I went back and looked at the December 11th meeting minutes from the association, and Jeff was at that meeting, and one of the points that he made was you'd like to be able to get the information out early to the communities. As Bob mentioned, this is early in the process, and these things evolve over time, so maybe considering how that's best done so that people are informed. Jeff wasn't necessarily opposed to taking a stance, but he favored that early information delivered to the communities and to the commissioners to be able to make an informed decision themselves as well. The minutes from the January meeting weren't available, so I don't know where they landed on that question that was posed about will the association take a stance on individual bills. They were kind of grappling with that in December.
The other thing I'd like to, and I'll take it on myself, is where Bob was just asking our resolve as to positions on different bills. This process that begins in January happens so quickly, bang, 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 and we only meet once a month. And it can very well be that there are, we want to express concerns like we just did, but that the timing of our meetings don't allow us to do it in this forum. And I want to explore, and the RSA's probably give guidance to it, as to can we make motions without being here? I mean, via email.
No.
The answer is no.
You can't make, you couldn't ask the question, but you can't get an answer.
Yes, you can. We do it all the time in the school board. You have to follow it up with a formal vote at the next meeting. And you query each individual member at the next meeting as to affirmative or negative relative to what they voted online. Well, you can vote online for an action using email.
Well, that's opposed to state information that.
Now, that's, the problem with that is it becomes discoverable if in the future. So if you don't have an email system that's outside of your personal email system, then it becomes discoverable for your entire email.
Whoops.
Well, also, you can't have a dialogue about it. I mean, you can.
Correct.
We could have a meeting and discuss it and go home and vote, but we can't discuss it.
You cannot have
via email.
a for and against discussion in email, but you can certainly vote in email.
Well, that's very detailed.
Can you have a phone-in conversation so that, you know, people have a phone number that everybody calls and
Nope.
discusses it? You can't have
Because
it?
you have to forewarn, this is a public meeting, a
Okay.
public forum.
Okay.
So you have to forewarn, because that is a meeting then.
Mhm.
So you have to forewarn whatever that requirement is. I don't know if it's 72 hours or whatever it is for this meeting, but you have to forewarn it,
Okay.
is the problem.
You could all call Mike or something, give our opinion on something.
So really, given all those requirements,
Call Mike at home.
Yeah.
given all those requirements, the early notification is probably the best way of doing it, that people can be aware of it.
Should we meet every week?
Our budget can't stand the muffin cost.
Yeah, we can switch, the cookies are cheaper here.
Well, let's continue because it's to me, it's very obvious that we need to be very aware of what's taking place legislatively in Concord.
And this isn't the entire list, by the way. This is, the association has weaned down the entire list of bills to those that are of interest to planning organizations. So the next step would be for you guys to look at these and see if those that jump out at you of being concerned. And Mike and I will express those accordingly. And generally, the question will come up probably is which ones do we want to actively get involved in, which ones do we just want to track? This last year, that's by getting involved, I mean the association will write a formal position and testify at the hearings.
And then alert commissioners
Yeah.
so that they can decide for themselves if they want to go down. And yeah, I think that's good. Okay, any other on this subject? And thank you, Bob, for doing this. It's a heck of a thing, trying to understand what's going on in Concord. Thank you. Next then is subcommittee reports, the TAC report, the summary. It was included here. The statewide alternative program, the TAP program, sitting on the TAC representing this board, I was extremely impressed with the method which you used, Mike, in order to have the different communities come in and present to the TAC their programs and support as to why they should be included. And then the TAC voting members, which are really the ones appointed by the municipalities, and they consist of the DPW directors or the planners for the city, the professionals. They voted and ranked the projects from the Lrpc and sent those down to the DOT. And we were very fortunate that the project that was ranked #1 here is #4 in the state out of 41 projects. And it was from the city of Laconia, and it was for sidewalk improvements for safety purposes to and from schools, and also to finish up downtown the Riverwalk project. It was all sidewalk type. And this is over $500,000, 550 something.
I think before the project is much more construction.
And Laconia has through their programs, what's that one called, with you hold back the different areas. There's a downtown TIF monies, and we had like 700,000 to put into it, and with the state's 500,000, that is going to allow us to proceed. I would like to just ask, and ask you, Mike, too, that this has not been announced to our city council yet.
Okay.
And if Shannon's going to do that in about 2 weeks, and we need to have the city council continue to realize the importance of what our planning department does, and the DPW and Lrpc. So she would like to announce it then first, so the press doesn't get it. but it's a tremendous award. And it was really neat. Ashland came, and they haven't been participating, and they made an outstanding presentation. And the presentation from Bristol was very professional. And each of the presentations were it was difficult for the TAC to vote and determine which one has priority. Let's see, anything else on here that you would like to discuss? I don't want to just read what's written. Is there anything that you would like to talk about, Mike?
Just that we're in the process of proposing our work plan for fiscal year 16 and 17, the UPWP, Unified Planning Work Program. And we have submitted a draft to DOT, and we're trying to arrange a face-to-face meeting to discuss their comments on the draft and refine that. Ultimately, that'll go to Governor and Council before the end of this fiscal year, so it's going to require some action in Jeff's absence.
We can do it. We're coming. The other very good announcement is that Sheldon Morgan, the DPW director from Guilford, is retired. And at the mutual agreement between him and the selectmen in Guilford, he is remaining their representative onto the TAC.
That's good.
It's very good. He is the chairman of the TAC, and he's retaining that responsibility, and he's an excellent chairman. Not only knowing what he's talking about, the way he runs the meetings and everything is very, very good. And as we come up to our annual meeting and awards and so forth, I'll try to remember and request that we
Should give him something.
give him, yeah. If there are no other questions about the TAC, thank you. The Rail Authority. I don't want to read what's being done here, but there's a great amount of activity. How this will all sort out in the governor's proposal on her budget, it'll be an interesting thing. I'd like to call out also that today in the Union Leader, there's a large full-page, I don't know if it's an editorial or it's a piece written discussing rail in New Hampshire. Pros, cons, costs, this and that and everything. It's a full page. I didn't have a chance to read it.
I didn't either.
I wanted to get here to get a muffin.
Oh, there you go.
But I would recommend that anybody that does get the Union Leader to read it and see that perspective.
Laura Conway talked show yesterday on NPR, and discussed it in detail. You can always get that online.
Oh, okay. The challenges, the financial challenges before the state are just enormous, absolutely enormous. And I don't have an easy fix for anything, but the rail is going to require a financial commitment of some kind, and it has to be balanced with all the other commitments. And personally, I don't see how this is all going to work. The Executive Director's Report. Any questions on it? Okay. Then let's move into the...
Dean had a question before the meeting on brownfields. And I noticed here that our application for next year's funding is in.
Yes.
And what's going on with current brownfield projects?
I talked to Rip Patton this past week, and they have, the project manager has reviewed the status. They've made revisions to the scope, and he's forwarded that along for us for review. The cost of the work that they're currently doing in Franklin is a little bit more than they anticipated. The bottom line is, when they rearranged the scope, it looks like one of the feasibility assessments would get lost in their current proposal. There's also a quarterly report that's due. Rip was going to talk to folks at EPA and see about foregoing that. I think we should probably pursue the report, and I haven't been back in contact with him to see what he found out. But the changes would eliminate at least one of the feasibility assessments because of the cost of what they're working on currently.
Thank you. The next is in the Executive Director. Mike, would you talk about the lease agreement?
Yeah, we received a phone call from the superintendent's office last week trying to schedule a meeting to begin discussions about the lease for the building. The lease is up June 30th. I've been talking to Warren. He indicated that Jeff had been in some dialogue or was hopeful to meet with the superintendent after the first of the year. I intend to hold that meeting, which is going to take place not this coming Thursday, the following Thursday. I had to reschedule it. Interest being that there was a proposal to occupy a portion of the space upstairs and renovate that for the use of the superintendent's office. And my understanding is that may or may not be still going forward. I don't think it passed through the school board, but I don't have a definitive answer on whether that's the case. So at least to meet with the superintendent and see what their starting point is for their position on the space upstairs. Currently, we're at the end of a 5-year lease. Going back in history, it looked like there may be an option for a 5-year renewal, but I don't see that in our current contract.
Okay, this is coming up quick.
It is.
If
We have to get
if
out.
we have to get out,
Yeah.
we went through it on a contingency basis once before, and it's a long process to find and negotiate lease agreements, so if this goes without saying, if there's some probability we may be out of here, we need to know pretty quick. Or be granted a 6 months an extension to give us time to find an alternative location.
There must be something in the lease that tells you a notice, if they give you a notice to vacate or something, how long you have to vacate. There must be something.
Yeah, it's pretty well spelled out.
Yeah. I can't imagine what they'd use upstairs for.
They wanted it for meeting space, is my understanding. To be able to host up to 35 people, I think, is the room that they were looking for.
Which means they'd have to handicap it.
Yes, and that was part of a greater building
An
renovation that would include an elevator.
Right.
That was just one of several
Yeah.
proposals that they were putting before the school board. Like I said, I don't know that it passed the school board, but I certainly can send out an update to Warren after I've had a chance to meet with the superintendent. And see
Right.
this.
Yeah, and then if there's any risk involved or whatever, we'll get an email out to the executive committee, just so that we're all working on the same page.
Right.
Okay. The next is, at our last meeting in non-public, we did ask and appoint Mike to be our acting interim director while Jeff is not here full-time. And his status we'll discuss under the non-public session of this meeting. But what we wanted to do, since we have a clearer picture of the short-term fact that Jeff's not going to be the leader here, we want to send a letter out to the commissioners telling them about this. And so what we have done, we have put together a,
I made 10 copies, I think a couple more. You have the original.
yeah, I have the original. And what it, in essence it is saying is that we have publicly and through action of this committee appointed Mike, our interim or acting director in Jeff's absence. So we wanted now to, where we do know more, and I'll communicate more in non-public, but it will be for a period of 2 to 3 months. So what we wanted to do was share this with you to see if you have any questions or concerns before we send this out.
Is there an adjustment to Mike's pay?
We'll discuss that in non-public.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, Wayne and I have thought that all out and have a recommendation. Our thought was not to issue this as a press release, but just send it to the commissioners. And if that evolves into any interviews by any reporters, they can call Mike or myself as our policies indicate.
I think it needs to go to town administrators.
The town administrators also?
Yeah, because they interface with Lrpc.
And that would be then the town planning directors too? Or just the administrators?
Well, if the administrators know, then everybody in town will know.
We must have a grouping in our email distribution that we can send it to the town administrators or
Absolutely.
yeah. So it would be, this letter would go to the commissioners and to the town administrators. I don't believe we need a motion to do that, or should we? It's always safer to do it. I'd entertain a motion to do that.
To send out a letter?
Distribute that.
This letter,
Oh.
To the commission.
Motion for that. We
Yeah.
voted
yes, we did.
to make the appointment.
Right, I don't think you need a motion.
Okay. Okay. Super, we will do that. Then updates and announcements. March Executive Board and Commission meetings. March Executive Board, was there any concern about that? That we would just hold it at a regular time, regular place, in our regular fashion? We do have a commission meeting though scheduled for March.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, 2015, it's on Monday, the 30th, with a snow day being Wednesday. So that it's listed here, location Molten Borough. Has that been confirmed to you? Would you know, Mike?
I'm not aware, I don't know if it has been confirmed.
The public safety building there at Molten Borough is a wonderful facility.
Mhm.
It's very easy for people to get into.
Right,
And should we ask Mike to find out its availability?
sure.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Then yes,
What time would that be?
6.
6?
What is the date on that again?
March
30th.
30th. Snow date, March 31st.
so I'd like a discussion of what's...
No, it would be, it would be April 1st, snow date.
Right.
Snow date, April 1st?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd like to discuss among ourselves what central topic we would like to do at this meeting.
How to get rid of a lot of snow.
Ooh. Touchy subject.
I have an idea I'd like to put out. The hazardous mitigation plans that are being developed by the Planning Commission with different communities. I don't really understand those
I don't
things.
either.
And what I would like to suggest is that we formulate a program around who, what, when, why. You know, why are we doing this? Who's doing it? Why are they being done? How it ties into FEMA. You know, just a understanding of each community's paying us or somebody to do it $5,000 or $6,000, and so there has to be a real reason to do it. And I just plead that I don't fully understand the importance or what is actually in one of these plans. And
I would agree. And who is the center person? If it's not, if it's all being done by Lrpc, that's fine, but it's not, because there are towns within it who have hired consultants.
yes, and we have been hired in many locations.
Not all.
Not all, that's right.
Yeah.
And so it's, and I don't know who the best presenter would be, because many times individuals that know it very well don't have the presentation skills. And so for us to come up with someone to present it, I don't know if it's somebody from FEMA, or if it's somebody from the state government, or who it is would be the best presenter.
It'd be nice to have somebody from FEMA Region 1 to be part of the discussion, maybe
Yeah, more than
a brief
one.
presentation, but somebody from the state office of emergency management as well.
Well, that's a good idea, sort of a panel discussion kind of thing. Well, we can flesh this out, but if this is an agreement that we can focus on that topic. Because thinking also of that if we don't understand these things fully, our commissioners don't understand them fully, and then probably the selectmen and council members and administrators might not also. And so FEMA is a big monster there. Yes, Steve?
It's called preparedness and justification, requesting during a disaster that you were ready, have the records to prove that you were ready in order to get under the Stafford Act.
And the Stafford Act is what?
God.
Is God. Well,
Believe it or not, it's very powerful. It's when I was in it. You have very strict laws that you have to follow under the Stafford Act as to were you ready, did you have a master plan as such as, or hazardous mitigation for what if. And I can tell you in the state of Missouri, I had 60 upfront mitigation plans that you had to review to make sure that they met the requirements of the Stafford Act. And if you didn't, you got to get them updated real quick. The governor will step in a lot of states and say, I want these done, so that we can get monies from the federal government during a disaster.
Is the state dependent upon each community having a mitigation plan?
There are RPCs, I know there in Missouri and even Arkansas, which was very tough to work with, that they had to get these plans updated every 5 years, and some of them had gone way beyond that, and they didn't get funded until they got it updated. And justification, you just can't say, I want $6 million for my county, and just because, you know, roads got wet, or something to that effect. It's very, very regimentated. Preparedness is the big word now. I mean, I just got a whole slew of stuff yesterday on just NFIP on flood insurance. And I've been trying to take the course just to understand where this whole thing with flood insurance is really getting to be sticky, because they've been $5 billion in the hole, then they were $3 billion in the hole. Now they're still trying to get it filled back up because of what's happened at Sandy, what's happened at Irene, you know, and we're still paying on Rita and Katrina. Katrina's pretty much done. Rita, we're still trying to fund some of that as well. And it's perpetual. It's never ending. And the funds are getting thinner and thinner because everybody wants them. And Boston's a prime example right now. You know, they deserve some help. And it is nice to see that New York City has come to their aid, one, for instance. But still, what do you do?
How has New York come to their aid?
They're sending melting
Melting
machines.
Two machines,
Two machines right now to help melt some of this snow
$550,000
each.
Wow.
If you bought them.
and Boston's buying one, right?
That's what they're already applied for, but it's just, again, did you have that in your plan? And if you don't have a plan, I mean, I've been trying to tell some road agents elsewhere in Vermont, if you don't put something together, you weren't prepared. You have no, you're trying to give it an idea of what you might have to run into. And this thing with measles is another situation. If you don't have a plan to take care of a pandemic situation, you could be up the creek.
Is that included in this hazardous mitigation, measles?
This has been brought forward because of what just happened in the past month. Where all of a sudden things are slipping back in that we didn't anticipate. We thought we had a cure, that kind of thing. And if MEDA, company, Preparedness for Pandemic Evacuation of Boston, I've been on that committee for 4 years, and it's scary as to what do you do? And that's why the meetings, the paperwork, the plan has to have some group of awareness, preparedness, in order to get funded, if you really have to ask for it.
Are you aware of any person within FEMA that would, do they have a PR person or somebody that goes out and speaks?
Yes and no. Most of it is there. I worked underneath litigation. I can find out where it sits right now because they've changed directors, regional, because they've gone nationwide instead of Region 1, Region 10, or whatever that they've had over the years. They've tried to make it all one unit. So I can call and find out.
That'd be very good.
Yeah.
And also keep in mind that the person really needs to have presentation abilities.
Well, this is just it. This is where, it's like nothing against engineers sometimes, but when an architect or what have you comes in, they can do this, but they can't do that. And you gotta put some disaster, it's very dry. I mean, extremely dry. But I'll find out where they sat, because I know my supervisor she's gone left instead of right on some of their duties right now, because they're lacking people, big time.
There may be somebody that you might be aware of or could be recommended to you that may not be working for FEMA that really understands this and can speak to the multi-dimensions of it.
Sure.
Because it would be very nice to have our principal presenter. Maybe this panel approach is the way of doing it, have different people.
Right.
From a community person, a state person, and a federal person.
Right.
I think it would be nice, but they can't be dry and.
I know what you mean. Believe me, I know what you mean.
No, not throwing any rocks at engineers, Bob.
Okay.
Sticks and stones, mate.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, this is great, good, we'll follow up on that. Another subject that I was thinking of is, maybe not for this meeting, but for another one, is our earlier discussion about how New Hampshire government works in terms of bills.
Yes.
We've had legislators' nights where they have come and talked to us about bills that they've sponsored and things, and that's been very good, but it's just the timing of things, and teaching our commissioners and others, how this darn thing works, and like the comments here, we'll go up online, do this or that. People need to know that kind of thing. And given the fact that in our communities there's such a turnover all the time of leaders, of board people, of chairmen, of selectmen, of council people, it's almost something that if you've done it once, you may have filled a bill then, but 5 years you need to do it again. So I'd like to, to stick that in the hopper as to a possible commission meeting. Because I think one of the ways of us having more participation by commissioners is by us being more of an information source and helping them understand, because they're always assuming responsibilities within their communities, and most of them are saying, well, what the devil's going on, how can I do things? And so one of the things we can do is each one of our meetings, is to have a subject that really is at the real nuts and bolts hearts of things. Like when we had the commissioner of DOT present, that. And it can very well be that after the budget process is resolved, that we have a presenter discussing the state budget. What do all these changes mean, and how will it affect our communities and our responsibilities? But there's no sense of doing it now, because this is such a ball in the air. Excellent. Election of officers. Oh, the other thing we need to be thinking about is our annual meeting and the focus or speaker of what we want presented at our annual meeting in June. And we've had, over the past several years, we've had the different department heads come and talk, and I think those talks have been fantastic. But I think we might have worn that out a little bit now and need to deviate from it. And I don't know if we need to get into a paid speaker kind of thing or whatever, but I would like to ask you all to be thinking about it so that we can focus on this thing pretty quick. I have one thinking that one subject that we all talk about is the weather. And apart from global warming and that, but it's almost like a little bit more practical, what the devil's going to happen next year weather-wise. Because every single person is affected by it, and every town and city is affected by it. And I don't know if there's some if there's a meteorologist or somebody that can talk to, what's happening, so that you can all of our towns can be better prepared for it.
I was thinking along the same lines, but I don't use global warming. I don't believe that's a correct term. I think climate change. I mean, because, people looking at, Boston looking at what they have. Is this global warming? We got all this snow? Yeah. My wife went to a presentation by a man who talked about climate change and the impact it was going to have on us in New Hampshire. And I'll get his name because she said he was very good, very down to earth, no pun intended, and
we wouldn't have cut that joke anyhow. I'm sorry, I interrupted your train of thought.
That's it.
I've
been
tough.
Derailed. No, I'll get the man's name and pass it on to you.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
I like that of climate change versus, you get into, you talk about greenhouse gas emissions and all these other things, and people get too ideological.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the emphasis might be on, there's things happening. For example, and I forget the details, but the state flood insurance program, which kind of administers the federal program within the state, are actually changing their definition of floodplain from the 1 in 100. They're either upgrading the 1 in 100-year flood or making out the 1 in 25-year flood or something. But anyway, they're already adjusting their criteria for defining flood zone in anticipation of global climate change. And there was an article, I think it was in Massachusetts, where now towns are discussing buying up shoreland properties that have incurred flood damage 4 and 5 times over the last decade, and we as citizens are paying for that flood through, subsidized flood insurance under that program. So there are things actually happening in anticipation of climate change. So rather than the broad discussion and maybe focused on it, it's here now, and things are happening. It would be very
And it might be good to incorporate into that the hazard mitigation component too.
Bring that into our annual meeting.
Yeah, I mean, we have what you suggested for the commission meeting, but then dovetail that with what's going to happen when when we have this climate. I mean, we are having climate change. You know, Boston's problem now is the weight of the snow and the amount of snow, and the next thing they have is the amount of water.
Well, maybe this can be sort of a series for us too, is that we kick off at the annual meeting, that person talking about climate change, and then we follow up with other commission meetings talking about, okay, now we understand this, but then let's bring it down into more
Right, let's break it into components.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. And it would be good not only for our commissioners, but for our town administrators too. Yes, sir? Mr. Cotton?
Well, I think you may want to draw a distinction between weather and climate change. I mean, we're talking. The other thing, I think the University of Maine, maybe at Orono, has a specific section on climate change. Not sure. That might be worth a Google to the University of Maine.
I saw a program where there was going to be a speaker from UNH on that general subject. I don't remember where.
Well, we had a speaker from UNH for...
At the tech.
For our annual meeting.
Yeah,
4 or
Yeah, we
5,
did.
4 or 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was excellent, it was
Yeah.
very broad, but maybe a panel thing, again, update the broad picture is what is the science telling us, and then, have someone from the state level and FEMA and, get it down to boots on the ground kind of discussion might be a very interesting program.
Plymouth State has a really good meteorology
Yeah.
program there.
Yeah, Plymouth is a very, very good meteorological program.
All these ideas, I'm thinking of the attention span at our annual meeting too, is about 20-25 minutes.
Right.
And so we need to, there's so many elements of this that was making me think that it should be a kickoff theme kind of thing, and then we follow up with commission meetings or maybe other general, we don't have to wait until commission meetings to hold a meeting to explain these things.
What if we were to poll the town administrators and the commissioners to find out what, after we have this annual meeting, what are your areas of concern or interest, so that they tell us, this is what we want to talk about?
Oh, that's a great idea. Maybe we can even have something like that at the annual meeting.
Do it, right.
And do it right then.
Right.
Have it
Right.
so a series of things questioned down. Are you interested in this or this or this or that? Or if we haven't thought of it, get pass it on so that we can do a follow-up series. Because it's quite obvious, the changes in the weather and it affects every single, personally, every community and the region. Everything that we touch is affected by weather.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is great.
I'd put that in motion. I think we can talk about how to structure it, but I think the topic, not weather, but the
Climate change?
climate change would be timely and,
Do we need a motion on it? No, that's
well, I
not-
don't know if we need a motion.
No.
I think we ought to make a decision that, because you're gonna have to start lining up people.
The Weather Channel has gone after solar flares in the past week. And they just sent out a satellite that's supposed to be reading to give us notification. And believe me, when they said you get about a 5-minute warning about a solar flare that could corrupt our electrical grid. And when you hear, wow, that's the only warning we'll get. But it focused, and even Sam Champion did another thing on solar flares, that they asked why that is also affecting our climate. And so it was really kind of interesting. I mean, they've really been going back after the major weather changes we've gone through, but why, what outside of our
Someone
atmosphere?
from, the fellow that's on in the morning, what's his name? He goes all over the place, to schools and,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
From Channel 9.
yeah,
Channel
but something like, a theme for the annual meeting.
Right.
Why weather? Why
It's-
do we care? And then following that up then with
Because they've really
was-
focused on
Yeah, it
weather
would
change.
be not just climate change, but
Yeah.
solar flares and other things that we ought to be aware of.
And if we keep this whole theme from being up here, but really keep it right here, you know, at the community level for our membership so they can understand and then they can begin to position themselves, and we can also, as a planning commission, know where our assets should be focused on. It's great, and if you could get back with that speaker, if he is a good speaker, again, because in a public forum like that, you need the presenting ability, a credible presenting ability, or I could talk.
Okay.
Our best speakers have been kind of out of the box people. Topics that get people's
Thank you.
curiosity up. So, you know, something that, not just climate change, but things about weather you've never thought about would be, I think,
Weather
very,
science.
very appealing.
Yeah.
And then follow that up with, you know, okay, all that's very interesting, what does it mean to us? And
Right.
have a series of meetings, bringing it down to earth. That would be very powerful.
Great.
Maybe we'll get Mother Nature to come and talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? She sits around doing nothing.
Well, Dean was gonna get God, weren't you?
No.
I heard,
He's got the address, I don't have to.
I heard that she's a bitch.
555-1212.
Okay.
All right.
Good, that's excellent, thank you. Next, election of officers. This all is all tied into the annual meeting deal. Let's see. So we need to be thinking about this. The normal in the last several years has been that the vice chairman heads the nominating committee for officers, and I would like to suggest that precedent be followed again with the agreement of this group. I don't believe we need a motion to that effect. We just need to. Is that the way everybody
Sounds
would
good.
like to do it? Because then Wayne will be focused on the officers, the area commissioners balancing out the at-large commissioners, and we'll be calling upon you all to, you know, your communities and the people in them, that if you have other commissioners that should be considered for the executive committee, and also, Wayne, and I'm saying this because I did it before, is you talk to each of the current executive board meetings to find out, members to find out what their desires are, continuing, not continuing, and then he puts the whole matrix together and come back with us.
So that might mean just changing the date on the top of the page, right?
Mike,
Are you on this page? Yes, it might. It might. Okay, well,
Good observation.
we'll, that's the way we'll do it. And then if at our March meeting, if you could figure this out, Wayne?
What's the date of the March meeting?
30th.
I'm sorry, for the executive board.
11th, March 11th.
Okay, thank you.
We rearranged the calendar so that it was 11th this month and 11th next month to make it easier on everybody to remember. You haven't been into many of these before, Mike. This is a very serious group.
I see that.
What do
I
these
see a
little
lot of
numbers
dates
mean?
though.
These little numbers with the stars?
Your area, what area you're from.
Area.
Yeah, area 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, I see. Thank you. And that's what
Oh,
the
yeah.
star means?
Well, that's your that's your responsibility, Mike.
I see that.
Okay, annual meeting, we've talked about. Mike will begin to need to explore venues for the meeting in June, the annual meeting, because it isn't too early to be talking about that. What are the thoughts of the group as to venues?
How about a picnic in freedom?
That's a wonderful idea. In March.
At Jean's house.
Yeah, that's better. Inside, because by March, sure. Sure, delighted to have you.
The annual meeting is in June
June.
29th.
Church Landing has always served us well. And Meredith is a good central location, the facility's nice, they've treated us well. I'm not opposed to staying with that.
I'm not either, and other groups like the Chamber of Commerce used to meet there, and they're moving around. And so there's less groups that are regional and based that are meeting there, and so it isn't like we're just one of the pack. And I like Church Landing a lot, but I also like Chase House there too.
They're both good.
It's a question of availability and cost and balancing
Right.
things out.
That will be on June 22nd.
9th.
29th.
29th, the end of the month.
So should we ask Mike and his staff to investigate both Church Landing and the Chase House to see if their availability?
Which is the cheapest?
I think it's generally the Chase House is cheaper.
Yeah, because I thought the other place was really expensive.
Yeah, it is. Well, something happened, and I don't remember what, that something wasn't available, and so they made the other available for some price. It was a
Yes.
negotiating thing. There was some peculiarity in there. But I think on balance, I think the Chase House is cheaper.
Is it paid for by attendance?
I think,
Somewhat.
yeah, somewhat. I think the cost of the commission is around $5,000 or $6,000 or something like that, from the different people that come. But generally speaking, the ticket price covers the cost of the attendees. There are those that are invited to attend. And it has been a practice, and we can discuss it, that the executive board meeting, executive committee
Free.
members have come free. It's at their option, do they come free?
I didn't know that.
And we can talk about that. But there is, and I'm sure that it's included in the current budget, a number for that, a historic number for that. But we do need to begin to investigate the venues.
Marie has sent out email requests and started to populate a spreadsheet, and in her notes, it's $195 for the Chase House. She hasn't received responses back from every 8 or 9 venues that she sent. $95 is what she has in.
But is that sort of like a?
Plus the meal?
Well, just for the room.
So, yeah, just
How much?
$195.
$195 for the room?
Not per person.
No.
Yeah. That's a very low cost for that room,
That's
Room
not-
rental.
for the facility. Yeah. Well, we'll, at the next meeting, we'll have more of a information there, and we can lock things up. It's great. Thank you. The awards, request for nominations. We all need to be thinking here, the Comeau's Award. The information's in your packet about that. And the recognition awards. There's already a couple that we have discussed, Sheldon Morgan being one. I think the Lakes Region Boys and Girls Club, them acquiring the facility for the Lakes Region and gearing that.
CrewCon?
CrewCon, yes. And so this is, well, let's first decide. I thought last year worked out very, very well with two very experienced and capable people being co-chairs of this guiding committee here, Barbara and Bob.
Yeah, they both retired.
We retired, yeah, they retired, yeah. We
Well, the way that.
What was your pension plan?
didn't get enough money.
We
Oh.
we pay off for the rest of the year. That's what I like.
Well, this is delicate.
Well, I think we suggested that the whole executive board sort of look at them and decide, because you have to, anyway, we bring a before them anyway, that the board look at the applications that come in. It's very hard.
But there's, any activity without a leader, nothing ever gets done. Things drag, and there needs to be somebody to just, I think bringing them before the executive board is the right thing. And I think last year, neither one of you wanted to make presentations, and so we just incorporated it in, and that was...
I think we put forth who we chose. I think there were 2 people, and then the executive board decided who to go with. But you don't get too many applications, believe me.
Well, that's why you need a leader also.
Well, that's the sad part. Nobody sends in a lot of stuff.
So what I would like to ask is there a volunteer here to be chairman of this search activity?
Don't raise your hands at once now.
Oh, come on, don't throw rocks at this thing. This is a highly paid, prestigious position.
Yes, it is, especially can you retire from it.
You raise your hand, Dean?
I did.
Is there a nomination that Dean be chairman of the board?
Sure.
So moved.
So moved.
Let's
Made,
vote.
seconded. Let's vote. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, thank you very much, sir.
Because of free parking too.
Yes, it does.
I'll be willing to help you out,
Okay,
Dean. I don't want
Great.
to chair it, but
thanks. You can pass on your wisdom.
Yeah. Lots of good wisdom, pass around it.
That actually would be very, very good for you to talk with them and then develop the sequence of so forth. Excellent, thank you very much. Potential speakers, we've done that. Board roundtable. There was at the last meeting when I discussed from the City of Laconia perspective that we were moving forward with an ordinance for control within our zoning as to alternative treatment centers for medical marijuana dispensaries. I did have information and sent it to Marie, and she sent it out electronically, and there's a copy here. And this evening in Laconia, we're holding our public hearing of the planning board to receive public input on this proposed ordinance. And then, based upon that input, we will then finalize our recommendation to the city council, and then they will vote to adopt this ordinance. It's a preemptive. We did discover in Laconia there was a tremendous amount of misinformation communicated by people that did not know what it is we were doing. And so we have spent time communicating that this is not seeking out alternative treatment centers, but state law has designated that there will be 4, and Laconia is included in the area with Rockingham and Stratford counties. And so for us to be out front to establish our regulations, because you need to do it before somebody applies. After they apply, then they're grandfathered. And so after the public meeting tonight, we will refine the ordinance and send it to City Council. And after City Council acts on it, which I believe they will, they understand what we're doing, and we're happy. We got caught with a methadone center application a few years ago, and we were behind the curve as to what our zoning and ordinance would be. And because of it, it was not a pleasant process. And our objective was to learn from that and be preemptive this time. And our understanding from the state is that we are the lead city in doing this in the state. And so once we get the finalized, and Gene, you asked for a full copy of the act, and I don't have it. You can get it up online, or
Okay.
if there is a hard copy, it's like most state regulations, it's very thick.
is this something that most towns need to be thinking about, or is it going to be very limited by the state? I mean, I can foresee, I don't know where this came from.
Me.
Did you draft it yourself?
No, there's
Take
a,
it.
in Laconia now, we have a zoning task force established, because we have several issues from the zoning perspective that we're addressing, and this is one of them.
Okay, but did they lift this from like Colorado or
No,
Washington or someplace?
No,
So this was
there's a lot of
self-funded.
detail in the state regulation that's incorporated into this, and then
Okay.
our zoning task force reviewed our zones within the city, and that's what that top thing is for here, and placed the authorized location of these alternative treatment centers and restricted them to our industrial areas.
So is this something that all towns need to be cognizant of and be prepared?
Yes, sir.
So this could serve as a model ordinance once you get it passed? And should we, you know, in the spirit of heads up, take this, modify it or not, and put it out there as, you know, here's something, here's an issue you need to be aware of, and here's a model ordinance we think is good.
We felt so strongly about it that we've committed a lot of resources to get to this point, and with our public hearing tonight. And we're holding the public hearing tonight because the award of the licenses, these 4 licenses, has not been made yet. And so we can adopt an ordinance prior to and not get caught by the grandfather.
Well, I gather any town is vulnerable.
Yes, sir.
To having somebody come in and want to start one of these things.
Yes. The state authorizes it.
Yeah.
Is that what the act says? You see, this is why I wanted the act, was just for that purpose, because I cannot imagine, I may be wrong, but I don't think a town the size of Freedom is going to be able to take something like this in its grasp and think it's relevant to where they are. And so I really wanted to find out what could be allowed
An application,
under the state act, you know.
An application could be made
Mm-hmm.
for an individual or a nonprofit entity that wants to locate in Freedom. Could that happen? Yes.
Anywhere.
Anywhere.
So they leave it up to every town to decide where they want it to be?
No, it would depend upon your current zoning.
You know, you mean it's been decreed by the state that it would go into industrial zones, is that?
No, it is not.
No.
That's what we're doing to be preemptive.
Right.
And it's declared by the state that there will be 4 of these permits issued. And they have broken the state up into 4 areas.
I see.
And Laconia is part of an area that extends down to Rockingham. Now, in our opinion, if a licensee wanted to license one of these facilities, where would he pick? Portsmouth or Laconia? I would think that there's more people in Portsmouth. So this may be something that we're doing that doesn't hit us, or we've just been hit by these things before and don't want it to happen again.
On the other hand, if Laconia approval process was onerous,
Exactly.
they may go to Freedom.
That's right,
and have
exactly, that's.
Oh gosh, it never crossed our
home
mind.
business.
Yes,
It would be a home business.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
So you,
Especially the growing of it.
yeah.
You know, we're combining all, you really need to look at the total law, but we are combining it all into one activity and restricting it all into one area.
You're not gonna have it at your house, are you?
Well, how can you never know, do you?
Doc?
Security.
Yeah, we were addressing that. And the other issue that we're not addressing in here, but licensing fees. We're addressing that in another, we have a licensing board, and then our council determines licensing fees. And there's a debate, you know, the state is going to, I believe, they get $80,000 up front just to apply, just if you're awarded the permit, and then there's an annual fee that is paid to the state for that, right? And then municipalities then need to determine, are they going to charge a licensing fee or not? My attitude is, and I've been expressing it, that the level of attention from city services that a facility like this is going to need, it will raise our expense level, and therefore there should be a licensing fee associated with it. I don't know at what level. But it can very well be that we spend all this time, do it all, and they apply in Portsmouth and we never hear about it again. But it can very well be that because we're prepared, then if somebody does apply, and it's their right to, then we are prepared. And for we put in architectural standards, and now before people come to the planning board with proposals, they know what our architectural standards are, and it saves them tremendous time and money. And our attitude is the same on this one, proactive stuff. But I don't wanna, if anybody would like to talk about this later, it'd be more time to do. I don't know. But that's why it's in here. At the last meeting, different people requested me to send the materials out. Wayne, would you like to lead off?
All quiet in the preparing for elections and town meeting.
Creating a waste problem, yeah.
Dean?
We have two things in Laconia. One was at the state DES, Amy Shmagula, who's in charge of invasive species, invited Laconia to come to a meeting to discuss using the different options to control milfoil. And the recommended option was the use of 2,4-D, which is an herbicide which is 1/2 of Agent Orange. And it is applied to the areas where there's a milfoil infestation, and it will kill the milfoil. Maybe not all of it, but it will help to control it. The three people that went were the head of the water department, head of the planning department, and I went and we discussed it with the state. And to cut to the chase, all three organizations have said that we do not want to use 2,4-D in our drinking water source. The head of the water department said they have no way of controlling or removing it from the water. And instead, the Conservation Commission is going to come up with alternatives in terms of assembling groups of people in different communities where there is milfoil, and helping them to come up with ways to control it other than using 2,4-D. So that's the milfoil issue. Last Wednesday, we had a woman come from DES to talk about SOAK, New Hampshire. It's SOAKNH is the website, and it is an effort to identify specific projects where we can control stormwater so that instead of it causing flooding, erosion, sedimentation, movement of pollutants, instead it is injected into the ground, not injected, but encouraged to go into the ground by building either rain gardens or some other way of swales to control the movement of water. And the state is in a position to help us design and estimate the costs, and so I would encourage everybody to go to their website, to the SOAK New Hampshire website, and look at what is available, because the state volunteers its time to help design and construct these projects.
Excellent, thank you. Steve?
We're still on a continuation, going on 2 years now with Dollar General. We just had the university stormwater drainage experts, as well as a hydrologist, review the property. Quite interesting to see that they did not, this company's Zebra, the engineering firm, did not contact the DOE in regards to the Wetlands Protection Act as far as permits. And this thing has going on 2 years now. and they're not letting up. And it's quite interesting to have a company adamantly want this building to be in Bristol. And we already have a Family Dollar that's barely limping along. But if you go on to a lot of the websites out there, they're just not letting up. And they come up with all these stories that, oh, this is the best place since sliced bread up against Walmart. So that's what we're dealing with. And again, we got another continuance that's supposed to be presented tonight, and it's quite detailed. Quite detailed. Unbelievable what they're doing.
Thank you. Steve?
On the well water testing front, one of the problems that we've expressed to DES over the years is that when you have your well water tested, you basically get a scientific form back which gives you parts per billion, and it can be tough for the layman to interpret. They were currently testing an app that would be available for free, and of course publicized with the testing kit. So with a smartphone or a tablet, you could get this app and then enter your test information that you received, and it will give you a layman's interpretation and what the treatment options are.
Oh, that's excellent. When are they going to have this done?
I don't know when. I've just asked that question. I didn't get an answer, so I know they've been working on it for 3 or 4 months.
Oh, great.
But it would be a great improvement in that area of wellness.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Barbara? Marlboro?
All's quiet.
Great. Come on, Barbara. James? Freedom?
Well, Freedom is trying something which I think might be interesting, and it has to pass the town meeting to know whether it will work anyway. But the planning board has decided to remove from the zoning ordinance the special exception of all kinds of water that you people were talking about from its shoreland properties into the lake. And they require every applicant to go to the ZBA to get a special exception to have water control running down. Sure, you have to show where your paths are, where your driveways are, where your house lot is, and all of that in order to make sure that it ends up in the water. But it's not handled by the code enforcement office, handled by the ZBA, which means that it may take you a year to get an appointment with the ZBA because there are just a few other people ahead of you, and they only meet once a month. So the ordinance is being rewritten to have the first section of the state shoreline zoning be the criteria that is used, so that because every applicant has to go and get the first permit up to their cutoff point, which I forget right now what the size of the development is, but that first cutoff point is now to be done by will be done by the state, obviously, because they have to get that permit, but then they can take that to the town, present it to the code enforcement officer, and the code enforcement officer will then issue a permit based upon this information from the state, and also photographs of the site. But it kind of accomplishes two things if it works, because it certainly takes some of the load off the ZBA. But it also will make it so that you've got somebody sort of enforcing the state's first half of its rule. When the second half falls into effect, then they will have to still get a special exception from the ZBA, because it would be a very large project then. But I think it'll be interesting to see, because there is no doubt that there is no enforcement from the state, certainly around Ossipee Lake, of anything happening on the shorefront. If the permits are given and then people just do what they want.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I'd be anxious to see how that
right.
evolves. John, Andover?
Planning board has been busy preparing warrants, to creating a business district in Andover, and establishing a multi-page list of special exceptions, and none of that's going to happen because they missed the deadlines. So I'll say the same thing a year from now.
We'll wait, anticipate.
Scott, New Hampton?
New Hampton, well, the mystery retailer turned out to be a liquor store in New Hampton.
A state liquor store?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And they wouldn't tell us anything. They would say, well, it's retail. I kept on bugging them, what type of retail? Because we have to know about traffic count and stuff like that. And you'll find out in time. So finally, the last meeting, they let us know.
ouch. Biggie.
But they're so close together now. You got Ashland, you got, you know, New Hampton, and then, what's the other one?
Bristol.
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 Yeah, so I mean, 3 miles apart.
Yeah. Our liquor's better. We're open on Sunday too.
Thank you, Bob.
Nothing important.
John?
Guilford, last night we approved an expansion again at Meadowbrook, 712 additional parking spaces. They apparently don't have, our parking ratio is like one space per 4 attendees or something, and most people go in pairs there, so they needed more parking. They also want to be able to do camping in their gravel parking lots. They have done that in the past, and it's worked out okay. So it's only available to concert goers. So if you've got a ticket, it's only certain concerts, because most concerts, you know, the people who go to those aren't really interested in camping. But there's some concerts that the people who go to those are very interested in camping. So it's an interesting crowd, I guess.
Yeah.
Where would the expansion be? Is it on the Route 11 side, or is it off of the Lily Pond Road side?
Well, it's closer to Lily Pond Road, the main one. It's over 400 spaces and 1 new parking lot. They're expanding their employee parking lot, and they're creating a new VIP parking lot that's going to be paved. That won't have any camping on it, of course, but yeah. Let's see, Marine Patrol is going to be tearing down their existing building and putting up a new one. The planning board will be hearing that the 2nd of March. They've had a number of public meetings to present information to the public, to the town and so forth, so things are pretty well set as to what they're doing there. They're not very open to any suggestions at this point, but that's understandable. Limited budget, just like any town, or any government entity.
That would be a great place for us to keep in mind for a commission meeting.
Yeah.
That, after it's built, of course.
Yeah, the new one would be.
Nice building. It's gonna be a
Yeah,
nice big
yes, it
building.
is. Nice
Yeah.
architect.
It is going to be
Going in
nice.
the paper.
Yeah.
You can take your boat across the lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Jet ski.
There you go.
Let's see, the town police department addition keeps getting put off. It seems like you had asked about that once before, but because the winning bid was, yeah, they're having some contract issues, so it's been put off for another month or so. See what happens. That's about it.
Thank you, that's a lot. Was the Meadowbrook, one of their main entrance roads now is a state road, 11C, goes from Route 11 over to 11B. It's one of the principal roads down to the lake, and it is, I think it's in worse shape than anything that Holderness has. And where the 10-year plan's cranking up, working on getting that on the list. Because it needs a major rebuild. It goes right along Lily Pond Road at the end of the airport, and the airport is a regional airport. And to get from Route 11 into the airport, you practically destroy your cars, your trucks, or anything else.
Yeah, and the fact that it's a short road, it really doesn't matter. I think that might be why they don't put much effort and attention to that. But anyone flying into the airport, their first introduction to the Lakes region is...
What the?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's pretty
terrible.
rural.
Parking expansion already done?
They come out horse and buggy.
I think so, yes. Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Before we proceed, I just want to personally And while we're on the record here, thank each one of you for participating in this whole process. I think it's just dynamite, the way everybody contributes, the focus is here. I think it's wonderful. And to understand what's taking place over the entire Lake region so that we can influence our environment, it's just wonderful. Is there, yes, Jean?
I just want to make one comment. Milfoil, you were talking about this. Freedom has a committee set up just for that, and because we've done so much out on Ossipee Lake. So you might just, and unless you are already talking with them, but be aware that there is an awful lot of them. They've had libraries, they've had everything connected of the Milfoil.
Okay, and do you know the person in Freedom?
I know his first name is Jim, but I'm least idea what his last name is.
All the people in Freedom probably
They're all
it'd be
Jim.
easy to find.
There's only one Jim.
There's only
Is
one
it Big Jim or Little Jim?
It's Jim's son.
Jim Jr.
Pick a Jim.
But the committee is called
Yeah, just say
the
Tuftonboro.
Milfoil.
Milfoil mitigation, or not milfoil, I mean, they don't specify that, but what do they call these things?
Invasive species.
Yes.
That's what it's called. That committee is called that. And if you call Linda at the town office, she will tell you.
Jim's name.
Jim. Where's Jim?
Mike, do you have any cares and concerns or things that you would like to bring up to the board at this time?
I've just been exploring how we end up with the UPWP in terms of billing. Jeff spent approximately 27% of his time in working on that. In his absence, we were on track with a monthly target to end on June 30th as having expended all the funds. In his absence, he might be a little bit more hard-pressed to do that.
Can you reassign another staff person to assume those responsibilities so that we get the revenue?
Yes, I mean, that would be the goal, is to expend all the funds that are available to us. In the meantime, we have applied for a couple small grants in the realm of $20,000 with startup dates potentially of April 1st. And so with just the three of us on board, there may be a need to hire somebody in to assist in doing that. So I'm going to continue to look at it and make sure that we're on track. But that was the first pass, is looking at the average monthly expenditure that Jeff was putting in, and to see how we landed.
The use of consultants also has been such a effective way of modulating workload.
And I know I've been in contact with Jerry Coogan. His plate isn't as full as it could be, is what he shared with me, and I think he would be interested in participating. I don't know if it's going to make more sense for him or somebody else be engaged with the grant if we're successful, or a portion of the UPWP. We do have a big project that's starting up, which is the travel and livability profile. It's got about nearly 300 hours associated with it. And Dave is mostly the person responsible for that. I have some responsibility as well, but that might be something we could share with somebody else if assistance is available to us.
Good. There's always the ongoing challenges of seeking revenue sources, projects, being assistance to our communities, and doing it in a way that we come out whole in the process. Okay, then what I will then do is, it's my intent that we'll now ask to go into non-public, and then at the conclusion of the non-public session, we would adjourn the executive committee. So pursuant to non-public, the RSAs, 91-A:3:2, I would like to request a motion to go into non-public session.
So moved. Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show that we're, by a unanimous vote of the executive committee, we're going to move to non-public session. And at the conclusion of it, we will adjourn the executive board. Okay, would anybody like to take a